Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of WrestleZone, and today I am joined by the intangible Zoe Sager. How are you today?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm fantastic to be catching up with you. It's been a
Yes.
hot minute. I think it's been
Yes.
almost 3 years. It's about 2.5 years at the time of recording this.
Hmm.
Obviously, like I said, next month is going to be your 6 year anniversary since your professional wrestling debut. We'll talk about that
Yes.
in a bit. But one of the changes we can actually see right now, you're now blonde,
I
compared
am.
to your brunette state we had last time. What prompted a change in hair color for you?
Um, I had wanted to do it for like years, sort
Yeah.
of thing, and just never really got around to it. I There were a couple of times where I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do it." I had like an injury for a few. I was only out for a few weeks, but I thought
Yeah.
like, "Oh, maybe I'll do it there." And then finally, it just like bit the bullet and was like, instead of I had been thinking about it for years and just was finally like, I'm just gonna do it. And then my one of my younger sisters is in was in like hair school at the time, and so she's like, yeah, let's just just go do it. And so she kind of like pushed me, and it's like now here I am, blonde.
Here you are rocking the blonde. I'm so used to the
Yes.
brunette, but I will say I feel like the blonde goes it really complements because your gears tend to be like lighter, what's the
Hmm.
word? Pastel-y colors.
Yeah.
Like the pink is kind of pastel, the purple is really bright too. I know you got the blue and light purple going on there, but a lot of your
Hmm.
stuff is like a lot of pastel so I feel like it uh accentuates it even more. Which
Thank
is
you.
really nice. And kind of on the topic of gear, obviously, like I said, you've evolved so much as well, not
Hmm.
only with your hair, but also in your ring gear. I'm a big fan of the light purple lavender gear. And of course, I feel like
Yes.
the shimmery pink slash it's kind of coral in some lightings is
Hmm.
another staple of Zoe Sager. But when it comes to crafting and envisioning your ring gear, where do you typically look towards for inspiration in that department?
Often I look at least finding like combinations because I'm not super great at knowing what actually goes together.
Yeah.
I will look at like often I'll look at like Mercedes and when she was Sasha, her gear, and like looking
Yeah.
at all those color because she had so many different
Yeah.
sets and like, oh, these colors actually go really well together. So like I'll often like when I'm thinking of stuff is like looking at all of her gears and seeing the color combinations that I like with that, and then just kind of letting myself be inspired by weird things like that blue and the purple set that you were mentioning. It's based off of the like in Sleeping Beauty where they're like the pink, no blue
Yeah.
sort of thing, and then wanted it to be like paint splattery. So I just kind of let myself go with the flow with that type of stuff. I don't really know exactly where don't necessarily draw a whole lot of inspiration from a whole lot of different places. But definitely for looking for colors that actually go together and look to Sasha Banks here.
Yeah, seems like I don't know. Have you had any other kind of because Sleeping Beauty is Disney. Have you had any other Disney inspired or drawn inspo from Disney movies other than Sleeping Beauty?
I realized after the fact with that purple gear that it's if I had done instead of it being white accents, if I had done like yellow accents, it would have been like the perfect tangled gear. But that
Yeah.
was like very hindsight and being like, now since I got that one, I was like, now that one's my tangled gear. And then I guess I have that green and black set, so that could be Maleficent, but didn't really think of it beforehand.
Yeah, now this kind of answers I Mercedes is a common answer when I've asked this question because her gear is just like phenomenal like her entire career.
Awesome.
And I've been loving the newer pieces she's been coming out with now in her
Hmm.
championship reign. So I guess besides Mercedes, in today's landscape, who do you think has the best ring gear game or aesthetic?
You can't sleep on Tiffany with her gear. Like it's
Yeah.
just hands down. And I think at the beginning I was a little bit skeptical, just the way that she did because she had like wrestling bottoms, but then like a bedazzled
Yeah.
regular bra, and I that wasn't super much like a super big fan. But since she's like upped it and like blown everything everywhere wrestler out of the water with their gear, basically, at least in my opinion. Chelsea has some really good gear. And she's always had really, really good gear like her entire career. So I don't know, everyone has such good gear now. So
I
it's
know.
hard to say. Mine's so boring and plain compared to a lot of other people's, but oh well.
I feel like the silhouette, you kind of have a staple silhouette going for you, which totally works.
Hmm.
Chelsea is kind of the same way. She has like a one or two staple silhouettes, but it's just changing up the colors and stuff.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
obviously like specialty gears, like they were just in Canada for
Hmm.
Money in the Bank, so she did kind of
Oh,
the flag of Canada with the
yeah.
cowboy hat and all that. So that was really cool. But with Tiffany too, I feel like I've seen it kind of just wrestlers in general, starting out you're focused on other things, I feel like, besides ring
Hmm.
gear. So it starts off maybe kind of basic and you try like
Yeah.
something, but then once you get your footing and you evolve, same, I feel like with yourself
Hmm.
as well, you've kind of gradually evolved it with your ring gear taste and upping it as well as you go
Hmm.
along, because starting out, you're focusing on so many other things, I feel like,
Yes.
besides gear. But
Yeah, my first gear was really, really bad.
for a lot of people I've heard it's just like spandex and like a top from like Forever 21. I've heard so many times. Um
Yeah.
I don't know. What was your first gear like looking back on it?
It was blue and black, which I've had for my second set of gear
Yeah.
as well. Um, blue, black, and gold. And I just wasn't super clear with the person that I got it made from. And like it was very good quality and it probably would have lasted me much longer than I ended up wearing it. But the fabric for the gold was like fuzzy and like velour, and it was one strapped, and then it just didn't super fit well. And it for like it was just a little bit too far past kind of what I was wanting to do.
Yeah.
It was shorts like what I'm wearing now, and then I switched to pants and then back to shorts. Um, and I was thinking doing that just because like in high school I heard like I was friends for some dancers of like, oh, the higher the like hip line, the longer your legs look. And me being 5'2", I'm like, oh, I'll look taller, not thinking of the fact
Yeah.
that the ropes kind of defeat that purpose.
Mhm.
And so just it was one strapped, it didn't fit super great, and then it wasn't super clear of like what I actually wanted the materials to look like. And so it just made me feel kind of cave womany, and I wasn't the biggest fan. I was very happy to get rid of it.
Another change though that you've gone through since the last time I talked to you is your
Mm-hmm.
nickname, the Intangible. You are
Yes.
now Intangible. By definition, intangible means incapable of being touched or having no physical existence. Talk to us about how you acquired this moniker and kind of what it means to you.
Yeah. Honestly, I was watching, I think it was like NXT. It might have been like Raw or SmackDown at the time, but it
Mm,
was when they were putting up the like graphics on the side of like all the things, and must be NXT, but they put like their intangibles for one person.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's kind of a buzzword word that gets thrown around in wrestling a fair bit, but nobody's really made it their own. Like people have
Yeah.
like the goat, whatever type of thing, but nobody's really focused on like just kind of that X Factor type of thing. And I was thinking about it for a little bit and trying to like whatever. I feel like I am very confident in my wrestling ability. There are things that I need to work on, and kind of even in the evolution that I've had in the last 2 years with having that moniker type of thing, it's it's everything. It's the look, it's the presentation, it's talking. But above all of that, it's the hard work. It's everything else that you kind of put into behind the scenes. That's the intangible. That's the intangible for me. That's the intangible for everyone else. And mine's just better.
I feel like too with a nickname like that, even if you don't have it internally, I feel like you need to exude that confidence to not only believe it yourself, but also have the crowd
Hmm.
believe that you believe you're better than everybody else. You're basically nobody can touch you, pretty much is what it
Yes.
is. So is I feel like again, confidence just in life in general, I feel like comes with age and stuff like that. Have you felt yourself kind of grow into this confidence within the last 2 years, or do you feel like you're still in that kind of not fake it till you make it, but slowly it's gradually building, or you feel like you're already there?
Um, I think it's a mix of both. I'm very confident in my wrestling and everything and more in life and that sort of stuff. And I think there's always room to grow and always room to build and become more confident in different things. And so I think it's a mix. I'm very confident in where I am right now in life and everything. And I'm just going to continue being more confident and working on getting more confident in the things that maybe just mildly confident in, getting like fully and just keep on that cycle.
Yeah, I feel like again, it's one of those things that only comes with experience and age, and it's
Yeah.
something I feel like that gradually builds. It's not just like an overnight. Maybe in some rare cases it is, but
Hmm.
it's
Got to
definitely
be a little delulu sometimes, I think.
sometimes honestly you need to be, or they say fake it till you make it. If you're at least
Exactly.
you're gonna go out there, even if it's false confidence, it's still confidence.
Exactly.
Now, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about somebody else who has made a career on being intangible. He cannot be seen. He doesn't have a physical existence. That is John Cena. You grew up
Yes.
watching a lot of WWE, and whether you loved or hated him, John Cena was a big part of a lot of people's childhood. And I
Hmm.
feel like it's kind of full circle. We were talking about Money in the Bank earlier this week at the time of recording this. John Cena announced that he'd be retiring in December 2025. He made the
Yeah.
announcement in Canada. I mean, big, whether you loved or hated him, big part of your childhood, my childhood. What
Hmm.
is your reaction to this reaction? What is your reaction to this news of John Cena retiring next year?
Um, I was a little bit, I mean, not shocked just
Yeah,
because, he hasn't, like, he's been mostly doing the movies and
yeah,
stuff and, like, has just kind of, so I figured that the time was kind of starting to come. I wasn't expecting the announcement to happen at Money in the Bank. Um, Thought maybe a Raw or something.
yeah.
Like, I don't know, but it's like super cool that he was able to like have his moment to kind of like, I don't know, live it. Yeah, I grew up not super enjoying Cena.
Yeah.
Just kind of mostly just didn't get it. But since like being in wrestling for 6 years now and like being able to kind of see from a different set of eyes, it's like, oh, he is what he he is the best. And so it's kind of sad, but also um kind of cool to be able to see the end a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like that's again, whether you loved or hated him, I feel like that's like a marker of our childhood. I feel like,
Hmm.
once the people like the Johns, the Randys, the Rays like hang up the
Yeah,
boots, it's like our childhood is
I don't
really
know.
over, you know?
The Randy one is gonna hit real hard.
Same, he said last year he's another 10 years in him, barring any injuries. So perhaps our childhood can live
Jeez,
on for another 9 years. Fingers crossed. We'll
would be
see.
so nice.
Now, reflecting on your own career, like we said, next month, August, marks 6 years since your pro wrestling debut match.
Yep.
Besides confidence, how else do you think you've grown as a person and as a competitor in these last 6 years?
Um, Honestly, I am recently like at the time of recording, like 2 days ago, did a thing with Boris on Love Wrestling and his Saturday Night Love. And we watched back my first match. And it's I'm very happy to say that it's a night and day difference, or at least I would like to hope that other people would agree that it's a 9-day difference. Just confidence in the ring, move set, and confidence in like doing move sets, doing the different things that I at first was very, very scared to be like, oh, I want to do this. So want to try different things, and I was very, very nervous about being like, oh, can we try this sort of thing? I think I've really still figuring it out a little bit, but kind of found my niche in the style that I kind of like to do and that I like to wrestle, and just kind of figuring out all the like little nuances and stuff and character work, which has been like really the last like 8 months that I've been super, super focusing on it. But I think confidence and like just change in style, I think they're the two biggest things.
I feel like overall you have it's not like a specific style. You're kind of, I guess, overall all arounder they would say because you
Mm-hmm.
got your submissions, you got your hard hits, but you can also fly too. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's definitely an attribute that has definitely catapulted you and I feel like that was recognized last year. I think it was your first time on the PWI Women's 250
Yeah.
list. You cracked the top 100. You actually ranked number
I know.
67, which was
It's
incredible
crazy.
to see. So do you recall your initial reaction to this honor and kind of what it meant to you?
Um, I remember being very confused, mostly, especially having not been on the list before and then breaking top 100 was and top 75, which is just
Yeah.
like crazy. It was also it's just like beyond words. Um, because yeah, it's just mostly crazy, especially being in Edmonton based the whole 5 years at that point. Just kind of people knowing it's just very strange. Um, but yeah, I was very, very confused, very, very grateful. And hopefully this year moves a little bit further up the list, but if not, still crazy accomplishment for me.
Yeah, I feel like part of that, not confusion because we talked about it in the past, but part of it I feel like comes from Canada. You're kind of all in like a little bubble where you guys have talked
Mm-hmm.
about it's kind of hard to break out and branch out, to the States or otherwise because
Mm-hmm.
you're so far up. There's really like there's nowhere, it's just below. Everything's below you
Yeah.
guys. You've had a little taste of the States in Washington a couple years
Yeah.
ago. I know you're looking to branch out to places like the UK and obviously Japan. Thinking of the States, if and when you do return, who are some competitors across the US that you're kind of keen to work with?
Um, Amira is definitely one of them out in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
There's a few Amiras, so
Yeah.
that one
Amira Lara
specifically out in
Lupins. Yeah,
Oregon.
yeah.
Yes. Um, love her. I've o only been in like multi-person matches with her, and so it would be
Yeah.
really cool to finally be able to have a singles. Um, always love to wrestle Gigi Ray.
Yeah.
I'll throw that in there. A couple of other people I would really enjoy. Just trying to remember because there's so many names. Kylie Rae is one of them.
Well, that's gonna be
Shaz
happening
McKenzie would be,
soon.
yeah,
Yeah.
Shaz McKenzie would be really, really cool. Um, what's her name? Is it Maggie Lee?
Yeah,
I
Maggie Lee
think.
around Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah, she's so awesome. I'm trying to think of. There's so many to list, and it's just whatever. Trying to think of all the people. That I follow. Brittany Brooks would be super, super
Yeah.
awesome. She's just
She's
she
injured right now,
honestly,
unfortunately, but
I
yeah.
know. Honestly, it's really hard for me to list because the ultimate answer is just everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone would be it would be really cool to wrestle so many people. And I would be so happy to be able to branch out and wrestle all the girls out there.
Now you mentioned Gigi Ray. Obviously, from Canada. But she's also had a lot of stuff around reality wrestling in Texas. She
Hmm.
also had a stint in Marvelous. I know Japan is
Yes.
huge on your list. Have you gotten to talk with her about her Japan experience and,
Hmm.
the possibilities of like bringing, I don't know, of you going over there someday? What were you talking to Gigi like about Marvelous in Japan? Because I know that's huge on your list.
Yeah. So when she got back, she came to Canada, I think pretty much right after. She might have
Yeah.
gone down to Texas and then like back and forth, but very, very shortly after. And she said she had just the best time. And it would be, we talked about like kind of like how the training went and that sort of stuff, and kind of her expectations versus what happened, and like all that sort of stuff. And she recommended that, or she said that it was like really awesome, and said that if I can go down, um, I did the tryout that she did to be able to go to Japan. Fortunately, I didn't get it, but it got me in contact, or I got me a contact with them. And she's recommended that I should just reach out. It's just kind of waiting on good time with like work and that
Yeah.
type of stuff for that type of thing.
Now I'm so curious. What about the Japanese wrestling scene and style really captivates you? Like, what about it fascinates you so much?
It's just so smooth, but also like so aggressive,
Yeah.
and especially like that high speed division in Stardom, just like it's so fast and so smooth and so creative. Um, that is, it's kind of like the best of my favorite things of wrestling. It's like
Yeah.
it's the creative spots that are like super fast and high flying, but then it's also like super hard hitting. And then the creative like different coming up with like the different things that they come up with, plus the like strength that it takes to like kind of do that. And then also coming from like an endurance athletic background sort of thing, knowing like the these girls are sprinting, and they're sprinting for 20 minutes straight. And it's just like it's just a little bit crazy, and have a lot of respect for that.
Hopefully we can get you over there. There's so many promotions in Japan. Marigold is a new
Mm-hmm.
one, Marvelous, Ice
Yes.
Ribbon, Stardom, Sendai Girls. There's so many possibilities there. And I feel like you would blend in really well because you are kind of an all-around talent, and it will get you some fresh opponents too. I know that's what you've been
Mm-hmm.
wanting for a while. Like you said, one of them is actually going to be it won't be happening in the States, but one of the people you mentioned, Kylie Rae, at the time of
Oh,
recording this, you'll be wrestling in like what, less than 3 weeks now, I think it is, at
yes.
LPW 28. Kylie just recently returned to wrestling after giving birth. She again is
Yeah.
another established name on the indies like yourself. So, I mean, that's going to be coming true. What are your thoughts heading into this first time matchup against Kylie?
Excitement above all else. Um, yeah, she's just somebody that I've wanted to work for a really, really long time. Like I think pretty much since I started. Either like I can't remember if it was like before coming in, because I knew very little about the independents when getting into wrestling, aside from like the older
Yeah.
Canastory PWG type of stuff, which was much before um, my starting training. So it might have been shortly after, sort of thing. But I've always really enjoyed her work, and so it's really, really exciting that I finally get to have this match. And especially in Canada, it's crazy. I thought I would have to like go down to the States to be able to get this type of thing, but it's gonna be sick.
Well, hopefully because I believe there will be a next time that you two meet. Hopefully then this is on your turf. Hopefully next time it'll be maybe
Yes,
around Kylie's turf in the Chicago scene or
it'd
somewhere
be
in the
awesome.
States. You know, it's gotta happen. I'm really excited for this too. Again, Kylie again may be more kind of established, but
Hmm.
she really only has a 2 year experience advantage on you. So it's not
Hmm.
like it's this big gap or anything like that. Um,
Yeah.
but she's coming back, you know, just giving birth. She's had a handful of matches. So I'm really exciting to see this too, kind of also in this new chapter of her career as well as yours. A
Hmm.
match you've been looking forward to. And obviously that's going to be taking place at LPW 28. But I want to reel it back to LPW 24 in March of 2024. You successfully defended your
Yes.
LPW Challenge Championship against TNA's Speedball Mike Bailey in another great match. So, you know, tell us about your experience in working with Speedball and your personal thoughts on the match. Very fast-paced performer, very
Y-
hard-hitting.
yes.
Tell us about your experience working with Speedball.
That one was super, super crazy because that one, Speedball is obviously very, 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 very talented. But he wasn't necessarily on my radar for people, even like potential
Yeah.
to wrestle sort of thing. I have a couple of people that I'm like, these will never happen sort of thing. And I don't, I just, our worlds were so separate for a
Yeah.
very, that it's just like, okay, that's definitely not gonna happen type of thing. And then I think I was told in January that it was gonna happen, and I remember just being like, "You're lying." um, but that match was was a lot of fun. I was very very nervous going into it, just because I know that like I've done a little bit of the like super fast paced style, but only with people that I've wrestled with and trained with before. So it was the
Yeah.
first time that knowing that I'm gonna have to like figure out another person's timing with that kind of style, just like kind of off first touch sort of thing. And so that was a little bit intimidating, just not having a super lot of experience with that style outside of people that like practiced with sort of thing. But I had a lot of fun. I had a blast in that match. I learned quite a bit. And I would love to be able to have it again and see maybe maybe out east in their turf, but
Hmm. TNA makes frequent stops to Canada, so
uh,
at TNA, just
would be
saying.
would be sweet.
You know, like you said, I have to imagine that this was a learning opportunity of sorts, like you said, because Speedball alone is an 18-year veteran, also has TNA and
Yes.
a lot of television experience. So, what were some of the things that you learned personally and or professionally through working with Speedball that day?
Um, a lot of how just like a different way of kind of thinking about a match, I guess. Um, and then also mostly just like a different way of like seeing the match and like how these spots can sort of fit together. I remember while we were putting it together, I'm like, I'm not gonna remember this, whatever. And then we finally, it was while we were still figuring things out, and then as soon as we figured out the last thing, everything made sense. It
Hmm.
was like the last piece to the puzzle, and like, oh, I don't need to worry, I have it, sort of thing. And it was just like it was a really kind of weird thing because I've never had that before, where it's like getting that last piece and now it all makes sense. Usually it's like, okay, this part makes sense, let's work on this part, whatever, and then figuring out one thing isn't gonna figure out the rest of the match. But in this case it was like literally we figured out the very 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 start, and then the rest of it made sense and sort of thing. And so that was really helpful, and just like learning different ways of kind of seeing wrestling is always one of my favorite things to figure out.
Two more questions for you, by the way. We're talking about some of the matches you have coming up, some from the past, but overall in the collection of your career thus far, what would you say is a performance that you're most proud of and why?
Hmm. Probably like to bring it up again, that three stages with of hell that I had with Gigi Ray, mostly because um I broke my nose 30 seconds and like
Yes.
45 seconds into the match, and I still like kind of went through with it with like still maybe not right at the beat right after it, but still the intensity that I usually have, which I'm mostly just very happy that that's what my reaction to it was, as opposed to like, I don't know, we're 45 seconds into the match, couldn't stop it, but like, I don't know. So I didn't really know what the alternative was, but like, I always kind of wondered, what would happen in those situations for me. And so I'm very happy that that was kind of the result. I'm trying to think. I'm proud of a lot, a lot of my matches.
Good.
I think just recently, I think it's been released on YouTube. It was me and my tag partner Reed Matthews, versus the Clandestine Society,
Yeah.
Michael Richard Blades and Taryn from accounting, and I think it just got released, which we did completely on the fly. We didn't, or we planned the first spot because we planned that, and then we're like, actually, let's do it on the fly,
You've
sort of
worked
thing. And
together
I,
so many times, it's I mean, I don't even know how many times to work with Taryn Taryn alone
yeah,
at this point, but you're very familiar with both, so it's good that you can have
hmm,
that relationship where you can just trust each other. Go on though. But yeah, I'm
yeah,
just yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm not the most confident with working on the fly. Like I've had to been kind of forced into situations before, and it hasn't gone super great. But that one went really well. Really, there were no mess ups. I was able to, mostly I was able to stay calm and not like freak out of like
Yeah.
what's gonna happen sort of thing. So it was really happy that I was forced into doing it,
Yeah.
because like the other three were like, yeah, let's do it, and I'm like, I don't want to, but we ended up doing it, and it ended up being a really good match, and I think it's on YouTube now, but probably by the time this drops it will be. But
I feel
yeah.
like sometimes you gotta push yourself outside your comfort zone, maybe for situations you're not ready for.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a real, what's the word? Of your fortitude, your strength. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need to be pushed. I've definitely had those experiences where
Exactly.
I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this, but then, turns out to be a good learning experience. And
Mm-hmm.
going forward, you're capable, obviously depending on who
Yeah.
you're working with, but you know you're capable of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always something to look forward to. And final question, as we're looking towards the future now, obviously you want to branch out, get to some new countries, wrestle new opponents. What are some of your other personal and professional goals, say for this next 6 years of your career?
um I think the biggest one, wrestling in other countries and all that, try and get signed by like any major
Yeah.
promotion, whether it be TNA, AEW, WWE, Stardom, like what, wherever. Just kind of like, I think that's the biggest kind of overarching goal. Branching out into the states more, um, would definitely be one of them. It hasn't been announced yet, but I will be down in Portland, at the beginning of August. So I won't say what promotion
Yeah.
it is just because of that, but I'm going down there in Portland. So hopefully that kind of opens doors for,
I have a guess, but we'll talk about that off screen.
um, kind of like, hopefully that helps with a little bit of networking, trying to reach out a little bit, also branching out a little bit further into Canada, because I've only been out to as far as Manitoba. I've worked
Yeah.
Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC, but I haven't done Ontario, or I guess in Quebec, but that's for an entirely different thing. It's a little bit of a weird thing, but would love to branch out to like Ontario and to the Maritimes and that sort of stuff. But kind of those are little footsteps on the way to hopefully getting signed by a major company.
Yeah, I feel like you're on this upward trajectory. You can only go up from here, Zoe. So,
Yes.
keep grinding.
Thank
Obviously
you.
we hope, well, we'll see you in the States soon. Looking forward to seeing that official announcement. And obviously we hope to get you even more in the States. Japan obviously would be great. Maybe even the UK, just all around the world. Global takeover. As
Yes.
I've seen you make a reference to the Eras tour, we need to take you on a global tour as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to very subtly join all the contests that I can so I can go to her last date in Vancouver, but
Yeah.
it's proving to be very difficult.
Yeah, I think Toronto's the closest one to me. It's because it's about 2 hours. I think that's
Yeah,
November. I don't know if the Vancouver, I think Vancouver, I think is right before
the
that.
no, the Vancouver one because
It's
the
after.
Saturday or the Sunday of Vancouver is her last tour date.
Oh wow. Okay.
Whatever the
Yeah.
8th, 13th,
Yeah.
whatever one of those days. And so it's like I'm really, really hoping that one of these contests chooses me.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed to that too. Personally, we got to get you have you seen Taylor before, or would this be your first time?
No, my sister went last year to one of the LA concerts, and
Mhm.
I was very, very upset that she didn't bring me and brought her friends instead.
Well, fingers crossed. We need to get you to the Eras tour.
Yes.
Fingers crossed to that. And before we let
Donations
you
can be made to my PayPal. I don't know what it is. I'll figure that out.
it's probably linked in your link tree or something, just put it out there.
Maybe. Yeah.
Speaking of your link tree though and all of that, let the people know where they can find you on social media.
You can find me on Instagram at Zoe_Sager, and you can find me on Twitter at Sager Zoe. No space, no
That is correct. Pretty
underscore.
easy. Pretty easy. And it's just ZOE. There's no Y, just for the record, people, if you don't already know.
0Y.
Zoe, thank you so much for chatting with me here. Again, it's been a pleasure getting to catch up with you.
It's been awesome. Thank you.